Hello and welcome to the Cruise in Review podcast. I'm Blake.
And I'm Audrey.
And welcome back to the latest installment of our podcast, taking you all around the world with us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tons of episodes available for you out already. We'll talk you through kind of everything that's out there so far. In these episodes, we give you tons of great video, content, tips, tricks, funny stories, just stories of travel. If you have any questions or comments, you can always leave those down in the comment section, but make sure you subscribe. If you would like to listen to our podcast, there's a listen-only version out there. It's available wherever you get your podcast, but you can go to CruiseNReview.com/podcast to see all of our watch and listen options that are available to you. So you can watch and you can listen, but here on our YouTube channel is where you get the stories with the video that we take at each of these wonderful destinations that we go to, talking about all kinds of travel, but first and foremost, cruising. So what we've been doing lately is we have been working our way through our 7-night Southern Caribbean cruise onboard Voyager of the Seas. We have gone from day number 1, boarding day, all the way to day number 7, and we have arrived at day number 7, which was St. Kitts and Nevis.
Which I will say, on a cruise, day 7 is always kind of, it's day 7, kind of sad. You know, we don't like that. But on the Southern Caribbean cruises, you have a stop every single day. So day 7 was still full of tons of adventure. We were about to go exploring again. So it was exciting. You know, it's a little different feel when you go on a Southern Caribbean cruise. It's got 7 stops in 7 days.
Absolutely. And again, these stops, we left out of San Juan, so round trip out of San Juan. And we traveled from there. We went to St. Thomas, and then we went to St. Croix, and then we went to St. Martin, and then we went to St. Lucia, and then we went to Barbados, and then we arrived in St. Kitts. So if it sounds like a lot, it was.
Yeah.
It was very tiring, but it was a great trip. We saw so many beautiful places, and if you would like a recap of this entire cruise, what we've done is I've taken all of these. We've done day by day on this podcast. I've taken all of these episodes, I've placed them together in one story on CruiseNReview.com. So you can go and see them as one review and just work your way through those episodes. If you're listening, just start at the beginning at episode 1 of the podcast and work your way down. So we are completing that. We're going to go through this episode and talk about St. Kitts. And at the very end, we're going to put a bow on the cruise. We're going to give what we call our great, good, and okay of reviews of the cruise. We're going to do that at the very end. But again, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on our podcast, you're just listening only, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel at some point and watch these episodes, even if it's just to see the video and scroll through to see the video. And we also, too, to all of our subscribers, we do giveaways periodically.
Yes.
So make sure you do that. And you're introduced. I mean, we gave away a $100 gift card. Norse Frog, who is our executive producer, by the way. If this is your first time joining us, he's the executive producer of the show. He gave away a $100 gift card to Kirsten Ditto, who won that. She was just a subscriber and a friend and a longtime confidant of Norse Frogs.
Yes.
So that is that. So we're working through day number 7, which was St. Kitts. By the way, T-shirt today, source of much contention, is my Opryland USA shirt that I got for $10 on the internet.
Throwback.
Everybody made fun of me. But if you've ever been old school Nashville, where the mall is now, Opry Mills Mall, that is Opryland USA. And you made fun of me for that.
Yeah, I did. Just because when you ordered that, I thought, did you ever go to Opryland? And
I did when I was a kid.
You did?
Yes, when I was a kid. I went to Opryland.
Okay.
With Mom and Nana, Dad.
So good memories. Fair enough.
I had great memories there. It was an excellent place. Just because you never went there, I'm not going to get into this. It's my Opryland shirt.
Throwback.
Yeah. So.
Hey, but props to you, though, because you look good in it. So
I rock it. And when I first ordered it, I ordered a 2X, and I've lost 70 pounds. So when I first ordered it, it was way too small. Not even close.
But it was $10.
But I have backed, but it was $10, so I was cool. We stood in the closet, and I backed into my Opryland shirt. So I wore it one day on this specific cruise and was made fun of.
Well, we were on a Caribbean. Okay, we were on a Caribbean cruise in these beautiful islands, and you come out wearing an Opryland T-shirt.
I was trying to make a statement. I wanted everybody to know what I was about.
Oh yeah, you did. You tourist.
It's a classic, and if you'd ever went there, you know what I was talking about. I can't believe they got rid of it for a shopping mall.
Hey, don't talk bad about the shopping mall.
Whatever. All right, moving on. St. Kitts. So, all right, here's the cool thing about St. Kitts. It's situated kind of south of St. Martin, kind of north of St. Lucia and Antigua, kind of northwest kind of Antigua. It's one of the Leeward Islands. It's just situated right in there in that southern Caribbean kind of circle that is known as the Leeward Islands. Some cool things to do there. Now, we're going to tell you about what we did, but there's lots of cool things to do there. It's a volcanic area, and St. Kitts and Nevis run together. We'll show you some video of this here in a minute, but they run together, all right? And on one side is the Caribbean Sea. On the other side is the Atlantic Ocean. At one point, you can see both of those. But it's very volcanic. So it's not exactly known as a beachy destination. So we avoided the beaches the first few times we went there. Did not really like it. And we'll tell you more about that here in a minute, but I want to go over some of the cool things to do there. One, if you go there, the first time you go to St. Kitts, you've got to go to the Timothy Hill Overlook, which is where you get this gorgeous view, and you are seeing it right now, where the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean are on one side or the other of this beautiful overlook, and then at the far end, you can see where St. Kitts and St. Nevis seem to kind of converge with this water on both sides. Absolutely a gorgeous, breathtaking view. Every time I go there, it's just something to behold.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I will say, if you've ever looked into any kind of travel magazine, if you've ever looked at any kind of travel website that has anything to do with the Caribbean, I'm sure that particular picture has been there somewhere because it's beautiful. It's going to be your Christmas card. It's going to be that photo that you say, look where I went, because it's pretty. It's like I said, it's breathtaking.
So for us, again, I've been there a lot of times. I'm never really excited because I've done it. We've been there 3 times now. Every time I go there, I just don't want to leave. It's almost like your brain can't process it. Like your brain can't process it. But it is definitely one of my favorite places. You got to see. It's a real quick stop. They got like a little flea market up there. There's monkeys up there you can hold, which is kind of a St. Kitts thing. We'll get into that here in a minute.
Yeah.
But take a picture, and if you want a Christmas card photo on your cruise, I guarantee if you've seen photos of the Caribbean, you as Audrey said, you have seen that. But if you want to do that thing where everybody wears white shirts and you stand there because nobody's ever taken that picture before. You can do the cliche family photo and send it to everybody at Christmas and go, look where I went. It is, all joking aside, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be somebody there to be able to take your family photo. Blake's usually the resident photographer when we go places. But it's breathtaking. Like Blake said, you can get snacks. There's usually like a local popsicle guy up there. I mean, it's just a neat little thing. If you do nothing but do that, then that's you experience.
If you're not a beachy person, what we talk about here in a minute, you don't want to do that. You don't want to hike. You don't want to do some of those things. Go to Timothy. Do a panoramic drive. So let's cover some of those things. It's known for hiking. It's a rainforest. A lot of it's rainforest. Beautiful mountains and peaks and vistas all around St. Kitts. You're seeing some of that video here. You can hike. There's plenty of rainforest. There's active volcanoes on the area. Don't be scared. It's okay. They're allegedly safe. I'm not going to say they're completely safe. I don't know. I've never been to them. But a lot of hiking if you're a big hiker. Tons to do. You can take a day trip over to Nevis. Pretty beaches over there. Kind of get a different view of everything. And we had breakfast on our sail into St. Kitts that day and had a view of Nevis. And again, when I say that there's these priceless moments on these cruises, that was one of them. But we got a gorgeous look. And Nevis is very mountainous. It's a volcanic, big peak. And we saw that sailing in during breakfast.
And of course, we had beautiful weather that day. So it just made it even better. You know, the sun was coming up. The landscape is really pretty when you sail into that area. And so it was definitely breathtaking.
One cool thing people like to do if you're maybe a little less adventurous or you don't want to be a little less active, you don't get around as well, there is a train ride. There's a railway there. It's got an open air train car, and it will take you on a scenic trip around St. Kitts. And again, beautiful vistas, a bus ride just around it. You're just going to get tons of great photos. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It is so scenic. And again, it's not a place you've heard of just a ton. So, you really don't look forward to it, but it really has a spectacular, identifiable beauty to it that when you see it after you've been there, you're like, that is St. Kitts. And I love that. So the train ride is something else to look into. A lot of the ship tours have excursions. If not, you can book it independently and travel there. So the first time we ever went to St. Kitts, I was not a huge fan. We didn't really know what to do. We'd been told the beaches weren't very good, so we avoided the beaches. And we were warned the night before by the cruise director to avoid the monkeys, there were these wires that crossed over the port, and the monkeys were trained to steal stuff.
Yes. Wallets, watches. I mean, anything that was kind of loose on your person, that monkey was taught to steal, to take, off of you.
It would come down, and they would run down there, and like you were going to take a photo, and then they would take your stuff, and then they would run back up this wire and just take off across these wires. It's like, you ever seen The Hangover with the little monkey?
Yes.
It was like that.
Yeah.
And the cruise director, and I didn't believe him, and we walked probably 2 steps outside the port. And this was on our first time we went there, not the last time. We'll cover that here in a minute. But we walked 2 steps out the port, and there is a monkey, and I kid you not, he's holding a papaya in one hand. He's wearing a diaper, and he has a Rolex. I'm assuming a very nice watch. It was expensive. And these people are trying to get him down, and I don't know whether they ever got the watch back or not, but that was really my first impression. That and a lot of vendors were very, very aggressive right in the port area, which if you've ever been on a cruise, it's typically not inside of the port area.
No, it's normally right outside the port. They keep the ports real clean, real, not so demanding, I guess you could say, from the vendors. But then when you go outside the port, that's when all the hecklers are saying, buy this, do this, go to this short excursion. And that's a little turned offish to me when you first go into those ports like that. But, we went on past that, and St. Kitts became a beautiful place that we really enjoy. Right. But yeah, the first time we went, it was a little bit, I don't want to call it shady, because it's a nice port, but there were a lot of hecklers, lots of monkeys.
Didn't have the greatest experience with the folks, and we probably didn't do the best tour. We just did kind of a panoramic drive around the island. We were told to avoid the beaches. That turned out to be bad advice. But I've said this, and I've said this again. If you go somewhere one time for 8 hours, you cannot summarize the place. You just can't. We almost didn't get off the ship the second time. We were actually with my mom, and they had never been there. So she kind of wanted to go see it. I said, all right. And she's a big beach person. So we chose a beach excursion through the cruise line. And the first thing we noticed when we came back was that they'd cleaned that port area up a lot.
Yes.
There were no more wires. The monkeys were with people. They were kind of like
and
official.
some of them were on leashes.
They were on leashes. It was a much more official thing. The hecklers were not there.
Yeah.
They had really cleaned that port area up. And come to find out, that was kind of some feedback they must have been getting, and they corrected that. And then our third time back, it was even better. Yeah. But on our second trip there, and then we repeated it on the third trip, we found through Royal Caribbean Shore Excursion, South Friars Bay and the Carambola Beach Club. And it has become one of our favorite places to go. And I feel like we say this all the time, but if I'm going to St. Kitts, we're going to go to Carambola.
Yes, absolutely. It's another one of those beaches that if you've been into, you've looked through a travel magazine, you've Googled, St. Kitts on the Googles, and that picture of this particular beach, the bar, the cabanas, I mean, it's going to come up because it's like something out of a magazine. The beach is mountainous. It's beautiful blue water. I mean, you can't beat it. Now, it's volcanic sand, so it's not necessarily that white powdery sand, but it's still very pretty. And the staff there is so nice. I mean, it's one of our favorite places to go now.
It's one of our favorite beaches in a place that we've been told over and over again does not have pretty beaches. It's not, you said it, it's not the crystal clear white sand that you get in a place like Destin, Barbados, as we showed you Carlisle Bay last week. It's not that. But it has its own unique beauty. It's very natural looking. There's palm trees there. I don't believe those are as natural. They're not doing so hot, but it's very pretty and it's very scenic. And you can see Nevis in the background. The water is clear. The water is relatively calm. And again, the Carambola Beach Club, which sits right there on South Friars Bay. There's a couple of restaurants down the way. I don't know that you need to go to them because there's great food and great service right there at the Carambola Beach Club. You can get more information at carambolabeachclub.com, but it's $10 to rent a beach chair and an umbrella. That's 2 beach chairs and an umbrella, so it's cheap. It's very affordable.
Yes.
You can pre-make those reservations online if you would like to just go there yourself. That would be my recommendation. Take a taxi right outside the port to Carambola. The taxi will actually come back and get you at your designated time.
Yeah.
You can have a full day. You can also, most major cruise lines will do an excursion, Carambola Bay Beach Break is what that's typically called. But it's at this beach club. So you can go there on your own or you can go there with the cruise line. and they will set the chair up for you.
Yeah.
There's food, there's drinks, everything's relatively affordable, and you get these beautiful scenic vistas of South Friars Bay and St. Kitts.
And I will say too, Blake and I have talked about this before. We are the typical people that go out and hang out in the water, get a couple buckets of beer, and just kind of enjoy the beach. But they do also have snorkeling tours. They had jet skis, you could rent and take out.
Sea turtle spotting.
Yes, there's stuff like that going on all day long while you're at the beach. And I also want to point out, this beach is so scenic. I mean, of course, you have the ocean that you can look out like you always do when you're at a beach. But I always catch myself turning the other way and looking at the mountains and how cool it is with the trees and whatnot. So, I mean, really, the beach, a whole 360 view is gorgeous here. And so, like Blake said, I mean, St. Kitts, the first time, we weren't really sold on it just yet. But when we found this beach, it has definitely become one of our top ones we like to go to.
Yeah, it's a highlight for sure. And we just can't. So, St. Kitts. And the cool thing when you go to Carambola Bay Beach is we mentioned Timothy Hill. If you want to see that, you will actually go over that on the way. So your taxi driver, just tell them to stop at Timothy Hill, and they probably will anyway.
Yeah.
There's a pretty good chance they'll just do it for you. And if you do an excursion, they're certainly going to stop there. So you have to go over the Timothy Hill Overlook to get to South Friars Bay and the Carambola Beach Club. So you get that kind of together.
And it's always an experience riding in the bus trying to get up the hill. So that's a fun time in itself. Is depending on how many people are on your bus, you're always saying you got it, come on, a little more, because the hill is kind of steep. Yes, the hill is kind of steep, but I mean, again, picture perfect moment once you get to the top, so you're not gonna miss making sure you go there, and then the beach as well.
Yeah, and it's probably about a 10 to 15 minute ride over there, 20 depending on you can make with the 10-minute stop it. So you're 50 minutes roughly round trip. If you stop at Timothy Hill, it's very affordable. I would guess it's probably probably about a $10 a person taxi ride, and the excursions over there are not bad either. You're paying your money when you get to Carambola is a lot of times separate, so you're just paying for the transfer. I would take a taxi over there. I would arrange for the taxi to come back and get you at Carambola, which they're more than happy to do. You just tell them what time, and I promise you they will be there. Don't worry about it. They will be there. They want your ride back as much as you want it. So very, very, very beautiful place. Then when you get back to the port, there's a ton to do in the port. A lot of times there's cheap beer there, cheap food.
Yes.
Lots of cool shopping. We mentioned the monkeys earlier. If they're with somebody, safe to take a picture with the monkey. Not exactly my thing. But if a monkey wearing a diaper is
your thing
on your vacation bucket list, you do you.
Norse Frog didn't like the monkeys too much.
He is not a big fan.
No, he's not a super fan of the monkeys. He doesn't think they belong in the rainforest, but that's because he's a frog.
There was a lot of issues apparently back in his rainforest days between him and the monkeys, and they kind of do their own thing. He kind of does his own thing. They don't approve of his gambling habits. It's just a whole thing. So we don't get in between him and the monkeys. But if you do want to, you can't get a picture of the monkeys. Keep in mind they are going to want money once you take pictures with the monkeys. So then the sail away from St. Kitts.
Oh yeah.
I've never had it where it's not gorgeous. It's always like a little rain off in the distance at the top of the mountain. And it was day 7 of the cruise, and we had this beautiful sunset sail away. And somehow on the last night of the cruise, the ocean always shows out for you because she wants you to come back.
Yeah, it was what makes you want to come back on that day 7. And, again, by the time you get back on the boat, the day 7 thing is kind of hitting. And so then when you see that beautiful sunset, you're like, oh,
we had to pack.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet. But the sunset kind of helped just put us at ease and know that, there's so many beautiful things out there to see. And that's why we just keep coming back again and again and again. So a wonderful day in St. Kitts. And again, this was a 7-night Southern Caribbean cruise on board Voyager of the Seas from and to San Juan that hit St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. Martin, St. Lucia, Barbados, and St. Kitts in that order. And you can go and watch all those episodes at CruiseNReview.com. Where we have reviewed this cruise day by day. So recapping this entire cruise as we finally made it. It took us months to do it because we had the hiatus because of all the stuff.
Was not the plan.
It was not the plan, but we did finally get here. So, recapping this cruise. First of all, we always do what we call a great, good, and okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is rating it. We don't do a bad because there are no bad days on a cruise.
Nope.
We believe that.
Yeah.
If you're having a bad time on a cruise, you need to look in the mirror or introspectively at yourself. Let's go with the great first. The great was 100% this itinerary.
Yes, this was probably, we've done the Southern Caribbean, I guess 3 times now. This one was definitely one of my favorites for sure. Stop every day. We got to go to some new places we hadn't gone. 100%.
7-night Southern Caribbean cruise, no sea days. So if you're a person who is worried you'll get bored, I can tell you right now that is a misplaced worry.
Yes.
But if you are worried about that, do the Southern Caribbean. Fly to San Juan. You can get to San Juan almost as cheap as you can get to Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go on a cruise with no sea days. Good. And I would give good was we had what I felt like a great, good experience. I say great, good. We had a wonderful time, but that was our stay at La Concha in San Juan.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. And let me tell you why it's good and not great. One, great went to the itinerary, but good was it's a beautiful hotel.
Yes. It's a 5-star hotel. It's got pools everywhere. It's got wait staff everywhere. The infinity pool is worth the stay alone because the infinity pool is just fantastic. That's in our opening of our podcast video.
Right
yeah, golly, that we love that pool. So, that alone sells me on that hotel every time.
And that's just San Juan in general is our good, but the stay there, and the reason why it's good is it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing I would warn you about this trip is you will spend almost as much money if you do. I recommend if you do the San Juan cruise, do 2 or 3 days pre-cruise. You'll spend almost as much money in San Juan in those 2 or 3 days. If you're going to stay on the beach, or even if you stay in Old San Juan, you're going to spend almost as much money as you do the entire cruise in those 2 or 3 days. So that's the reason why it's good and not great.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's awesome. Old San Juan is beautiful. The beaches are beautiful. La Concha Renaissance Resort is unbelievable. We had a wonderful time there, but it is downgraded to good simply because it is really expensive.
Yes.
But what isn't?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going on vacation. We're always like, hey, man, we're on vacation. Like, we got to do this, And because the experience is worth the money, when you think about the infinity pools, the restaurants, the convenience of where it's located. I mean, it's definitely, we never really hardly left the resort, you and I, once we got there. But it is a little pricey.
Mm-hmm. And 110% no-brainer goes to Voyager of the Seas. It's hard to describe, but one, we had a little issue with the norovirus. Was not really a problem. It's not like the news would portray where there's just people throwing up. It wasn't like that. But what they did is they had the crew serving us in the buffet. The ship was very shorthanded, I believe, to begin with. So the buffet was a nightmare. And on a 7-night cruise with a port every day, you really tend to rely on the buffet. That was not a good experience. And so we, by about halfway through the cruise, went to room service for breakfast, which was fine, but there was a charge for that.
Yeah.
We started eating lunch on the island, which there's a charge for that.
Yeah.
And then we were just eating at the specialty restaurants. All of that was fine. We did not have a bad experience. We had to alter our experience. But the ship was very understaffed. The staff was at times difficult and unengaged and not very helpful. We had a situation where we had ordered some champagne and strawberries for sail away. They just never brought them. Wasn't a huge deal. So we just said, hey, just go ahead and refund us. So the next day they brought us a thing of melted strawberries, no champagne, which is champagne's kind of what you pay for, right? It was really expensive. We said, hey, no problem. This is a first world problem, okay?
Yeah.
Just give us our money back. They came to the room to get the strawberries back. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
They said, oh, you wanted a refund?
Like,
give me those strawberries. And I was
door.
like, okay, take the melted strawberries back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Knocked on the door and we're like, man, what are you going to do with these? Throw them away? I mean, that's exactly what they were going to do. So,
Yeah. So we just gave them back. And then we went down to guest services and told them we didn't appreciate them wanting to repo our strawberries that we didn't like to begin with. So, but it was stuff like that. And it was a staff problem. There was some other issues going on, but it wasn't horrible. It did not ruin our trip. And I implore you, we've always tried to take this attitude: when you're on vacation, not everything's going to go right.
Yes.
Do your best to make the most out of it, because you're on vacation, you're in these beautiful places. And if we really would have wanted to, we really could have let that put a damper on our trip.
Yeah.
We chose not to. We just modified our plans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're always got to stay on your toes, and something doesn't go, you're the right way. You can't let it ruin your whole trip. And I'll also say, too, on these Southern Caribbean cruises, when they do have 7 stops for 7 days, you're not really going on the cruise for the ship.
No.
Now, we've looked at cruises where we're really more excited about the ship because we've been on these ports of,
Which we did in our April for birthday
yes,
cruise.
Yes, birthday cruise, and we'll talk about that. But this was not one of those cruises that we were just so, we didn't do it because we wanted to go on Voyager of the Seas. Now, we were so excited about going on a Royal Caribbean cruise, but it wasn't necessarily the reason we did this cruise. So the fact that we did have 7 days with 7 ports, definitely helped the fact that the ship wasn't the greatest. But we still had a great time. 100% would recommend this cruise to anyone that wanted to go to the Southern Caribbean, because the ports are worth it. The ports are worth the 7 days that you're going to go down there, because you're going to have a blast.
And Royal Caribbean completely redeemed themselves on the cruise at the end of April, which we'll go over. Plenty of staff, plenty of crew. The crew was friendly. They were staffed up. They were helpful. So they kind of redeemed themselves, which I felt like they really needed to do with me after that initial trip. So, again, that's the okay. Wasn't horrible. Didn't ruin the trip. It's why we don't do them bad. Because if I say bad, then you're going to draw this thing of just having a horrible time, which we did not do. So, wonderful cruise. Recommended every single time.
Yes.
Even with the issues we had, we would do it again 50 times over.
Yes. People ask, if I could do a cruise, which one would you do? Southern Caribbean comes out of my mouth every single time. Southern Caribbean.
If you really want to see the Caribbean, go to the Southern Caribbean. Do a 7-night Southern Caribbean cruise out of San Juan. They also have them out of Barbados if you're feeling adventurous. It is a fun cruise. And again, you can see the full review at CruiseNReview.com. Day 1, boarding day, all the way down to 7. So where do we go from here? So we have completed this. So we're going to make a brief pit stop, and we're going to talk about some different topics. Then we will go into kind of a semi-review of our 7-night Western Caribbean on board Allure of the Seas that we took for Audrey's birthday.
Yes, birthday cruise.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately had to turn 30. So I am looking forward to talking about that, because we had a great time.
Yeah, 100%. So our next episode will be June 8th. And what we're going to talk about on that one is cruising the Caribbean during hurricane season. Hurricane season starts, which is today, the day it's released, but June 1st. And it runs until the end of November. So we are officially in hurricane season. What does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about it. It doesn't mean nearly as much as you think it means, but there are some things to know. We're going to cover that. Things like itinerary changes. What happens if there's a hurricane during your cruise? Is it dangerous? Is it all these things? We're going to talk about all of that. We know that there was a ship that made the news recently, a Carnival ship that sailed into kind of not a hurricane, but some bad weather. We'll talk about just how rare that actually is, but also cruising the Caribbean during a hurricane. What do you need to do? What do you need to know? What happens? All of these things. We've experienced that personally. And we can tell you stories of that. We do book travel as well. So if you would like to book travel, you can contact us, info@CruiseNReview.com. You can go to our website, CruiseNReview.com, fill out our book travel section. We would love to help you with that. We are a full-service travel agency.
We do land vacations, cruise vacations, and we do it all too. Not just the particular cruise or hotel stay. We will do airplanes, and we can also help you book everything on the cruise too. Drink packages, shore excursions. So just keep that in mind. I mean, we're full service. We can be full service. If you already have what you want to do in mind, we'll help you book that. But all the things that we've talked about on this podcast, we can definitely book them, plus other things. If there's something else you're interested in, just let us know.
Yeah, sure. We're more than happy to help you out with that. And we, again, will help you get there. We'll make it easy. We'll be somebody you can call if you get down there and like, now what? We're happy to help if there's an issue, if there's a problem, if there's an itinerary change because of weather, and you're like, now what do I do? We'll help you. We'll take care of it. We can call. We can take care of it. You can just enjoy your trip, and we will do all of the work. And so we do book travel. So make sure you do that. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms.
Yes.
We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Norris Frog is on several of those social media as well, at Norris Frog.
And he posted some pictures and videos from our recent cruise in April. Plus our previous cruise, you can kind of get a cruise. You can kind of get a perspective or viewpoint from what he does when we go on vacation. So he's a fun time. Plus he does giveaways like his birthday giveaway. So you definitely want to make sure you follow him because you never know.
Yep. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, if you're watching this, you want to listen on the go or check out some of those other ones. Maybe you're going on a road trip, anywhere you get your podcast, but you can go to CruiseNReview.com/podcast to see our listen options as well. So next week, June 8th, is our episode, Cruising the Caribbean During Hurricane Season. What does that look like? We will cover all of those odds and ends during that episode.
Yes, you need to come back in case Blake decides to wear another corny t-shirt. Who knows?
It's not corny. It's Opryland, USA.
Tourist.
One of the great American theme parks of all times that was shut down well before its time.
And next week, I'll have on my Mickey ears.
Why? Okay. We can do trips to Disney as well, if you would like to go. If you like that sort of thing. We can't do Opryland, USA because it was closed down prematurely to build a shopping mall.
Which is I will give you tips and tricks to the Opryland Mall as well.
Opry Mills Mall is great. I'm not dogging Opry Mills Mall. I would just rather Opryland, USA just still be there, maybe in the vicinity or something like that.
You and North Frog. They hate
We're
shopping.
also experts in Nashville if you'd like to go to Nashville. No, we don't agree on everything, but we can do that. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, next week, Cruising the Caribbean During Hurricane Season. Trying to reason with hurricane season.
Ooh.
That's a Jimmy Buffett lyric. I did not do that. Credit goes to Jimmy Buffett. All right. I'm Blake.
And I'm Audrey.
That is our executive producer, Norris Frog. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye for now.